Welcome to True House Stories. I am Lenny Fontana coming out of New York City. And today, after a long hiatus, I was able to get in touch with one of my oldest friends in the industry from the UK side, a favorite of London town, the two brothers that I know for, as long as I've been traveling across that ocean into the UK. You will know them as Zoo Crew, Groove Odyssey guys, 51st State. I know them as Bobby and Steve. Two of the nicest fellas I ever met. Especially when I first began coming over. They welcomed me with open arms. It was, you have to realize when you're coming abroad for the first time in your life and you're meeting people you never worked with before, or they're not sure, they played your records but don't really know you. I was always welcomed a warm reception from these two fellas. And decades later, with trials and tribulations and all that stuff that we all go through, they're still here doing what they believe, playing soulful house music, making soulful house music, you know what I'm saying? And purveying the London flag all over UK and Europe, bringing it to Ibiza and Europe. So enough of me of what I've been saying about them. There's going to be enough for this man to say what he's going to say. I'd like to welcome from Bobby and Steve, Bobby Laviniere, half of the duo, the magic duo. He's here in the flesh. Bobby, thank you for agreeing to do this, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Lenny. Thank you for inviting us onto your show and allowing us to tell our story and use your platform to tell our story.
It's important.
Yeah, truly. And I love the intro as well.
Thank you. It's the truth, though. When I first came over, you guys were well open. I'll never forget that. You said, yo, come work with us, come play it. I was like, wow. Because you don't get that all the time. You know that. You don't get those welcomes like that from everyone.
Yeah, and then, do you know what? I hope and I believe and I know it's not a show. It wasn't a show and it's still not a show. That's who we are. That's the core of Bobby and Steve. Do you know what I mean? We welcome people, and from day one, as you people here who don't know our story will hear, we welcome people. And as you opening a platform now for me, we've had a platform laid out since 1984 and bringing people on, do you know what I mean? And sharing and that, because that's just who we are, man. That's just who we are. And we're grateful for that. We thank the Lord, we thank the universe for blessing us with that, because everything comes back around, you give love, the love comes back, man.
Yeah, it's a wonderful feeling, that horseshoe effect. What goes out comes back in a wonderful way. And, I know you've been on BBC and you've been telling the story about Stevie, and we'll get into that in a moment, which has made you really come up to a different level because of what we dealt with COVID, and both of you going through COVID and still dealing with COVID in different ways now, Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely has. I'm a very positive guy. I'm used to with very positive people. But what this has done, March 2020, and from there onwards, has just shown me a beautiful thing. As though it's a negative story, it's really put just a lot of love, more love inside of me, and positivity. It really, really has. You know what I mean? And I'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Throughout the show, because it's
we need to hear more of that. Yeah, but everyone wants to know the story behind you guys. It's important because, everyone, each one of you have a piece to the big picture puzzle. And without each piece, you can't complete it, if you know what I mean. And the pictures of both you and your brother are so eminent in the scene. And that's what we're going to talk about now. So everybody knows, here we go. I always ask that same question. How does it all begin when you guys are young kids, finding the music or the music finding you?
The music found us. Where me and Steve are two of eight children, right? We've got 6 siblings each, and We come from a place in Forest Gate in East London. Our older sister now is 65, 66, and then the youngest is 47. But me and Steve are 59 years old, and on this month, on the 18th. So we're born in 63. So all of our family, or our siblings, are like 2, 3, 4 years apart. You know, very, very close family. And me and Steve being identical twins as well, the definition of identical twins, I'll say. We didn't really need anyone, even though as we got a bit older, we had this big squad. Do you know what I mean? But we would follow our sister Sonia. In our house, our dad used to play all the records on June Greaves and all that, and, you know, the Aretha Franklin and stuff like that. So we got into soul music, you know, the classic old soul when we was really young, I suppose, just hearing it, you know. Subconsciously it's there, isn't it, in the background, rolling away. And as we got older, I would say in our maybe 11, 12-ish, as we go into secondary school, we started, you know, involving different musics, the reggae scene. We even had, in them days, we had a reggae sound of like 13, 14. We got into the reggae, and then we was back into the soul. Our second older sister, Sonia, she was what you call a boogie girl, right? Paul Anderson, you know what I mean, following all that kind of thing, and Froggy, the late great Froggy, and stuff like that. And she would have like Greg Edwards on. He was a DJ playing all soul music on Capital Radio and stuff, and she would have all the other stations on. So as we were running around, because me and Steve were little footballers when we were young. When we was like 11 years old, we was playing for all these professional clubs as kids, right? So we was running around every day playing football, going to school, but playing football. So music, again, was always in the background then. And then it must have been about, we left school in 1980. We were 16 years old. It must have been about 1978. So about 1977-ish, we was hearing more of the music and the disco and stuff and all that funk stuff, which my sister was playing in the house. And then we started, we heard about Crackers. Crackers nightclub was a Friday lunchtime. It was a lunchtime thing, right? The club would open on lunchtime in the West End, just off of Tottenham Court Road, off Oxford Street, down there. So we would bunk school, and loads of us would go down there for the fun of it to begin with, honestly. And then the music sort of came after that, going down there, because this bunking school was with the boys, you know. But then it was Paul Anderson that was DJing there. This name came around. Paul Anderson was DJing there. This is when we was at school. 1978. So we would be in there with all the boys and all that firm. And then my sister, Sonia, as well, used to go down because she used to work. All the workers who were dancers who used to go to the club, they used to leave on their lunch break, would go to the club because they never sold alcohol there. Go to the club and then go back to work. We would bunk school, go to the club and not go back to school. But that was that. So that was our first nightclub experience into the boogie disco thing like that, you know. And I'm a Chantel Curtis, I think it's on Pine Records, Get Another Love. After going to Crackers, must have been maybe 1979, that's before we left school, we bought our first disco like Chantel Curtis, Get Another Love. We was down the market, walking down Petticoat Lane Market, which is the market in London, on a Sunday, and we heard the record. We thought, that's the record we heard on a couple of days ago. And that was our first thing about buying that record there. So it wasn't like someone said, you have to go to the club. Paul Anderson playing there, George Power. We was following our squad, basically. Yeah, we was going around with older boys there. And that was that. So, and then, we've left school in 1980. We're going out clubbing. I mean, we was going clubbing when we was 14 years old now, you know, 15 years old. No, when we was back in school there, 1978, when we was about 15, 16, we started going to other clubs. We was into soul music. Yes, a lot of two-step music was out there, what the DJs were playing. And then we was going to the clubs then, but not on a serious note. You know, you're growing up and you're finding your way. And then what happened was, there was where we're from in Forest Gate in East London, there's a local pub called Simpsons. Mm. We used to go down there all the time and drink, and we knew the manager. Anyway, the place got refurbished, and it was amazing. And we was at the bar before we went out. We used to go to a club called Bentley's on a Friday night, which a lot of people used to go to. The late, great Derek Boland used to play there. And so Simpsons became like the pre-drink for us, right? So we'd go down there with the boys. And me and Steve and a good friend of ours, Michael James, were sitting at the bar. And we said to Jim, you need to get a DJ in here. We never DJed before. Do you know what I mean? Never DJed, never promoted. We just said. And he was serving someone who never started. And he turned around and goes, why don't you guys do it? And just like that, the good Lord, he pointed at us. And me and Steve looked at each other, Michael, we just said, yeah, let's do it. That was it.
Like the light shined on you. Oh, it's like
the spotlight was on us. And that was it. That was our introduction into that. Because I was working, we left school at 16. I was working as a gas safe engineer for British Gas, right? That was my first and only job I've really had besides the music. And Steve was in retail. So it was not as if it wasn't a business plan. We was earning money. We was earning good money. We were surviving. And plus we was doing our little hustling on the side.
So did you actually have to go to school to be trained to do the gas fitting?
Yeah, I left school at 16 and I had the job before that. I'd done a 3-year apprenticeship in gas service engineering. I'm still a qualified gas service engineer now.
That's what I figured. That's what. Okay.
Yeah. I've still got that qualification now to refresh. But that's another story. But I'm blessed to have that because it's helped me financially.
It's a great job to have because better than having a plumber ready to at your disposal when necessary. Because you got to know plumbing, right?
Yeah, definitely. You know, grateful, thankful for that big time, for that job. So what happened was we said, yeah, we'll do it. Now, we went out for the night. Saturday morning, we woke up hanging, bit of a hangover. And we said, shit, because we was living at our mum's house then, right? And then we said, we've got to do this gig. What are we going to do? So we said, oh, God, what are we going to call ourselves? Now, going back to 1978, it was, I believe, there's a film called Thank God It's Friday. When we was at school, we went to the pictures to see it. And that was the late, great Donna Summer. That was her debut acting performance in Thank God It's Friday, right? That film was based around a club called Disco, called Zoo. And when we was at school, so this was 1970, we was like 15 or whatever, 14 down on 15. This is how things align in life, right? Because we said, after that movie, it's me, Steve, and our friend Wayne Mitchell, we went to watch it in the movies. After that, I went with my friends out, and we said, if ever we get a club, not DJ, if ever we own a club, we're going to call it Zoo. Now, this is 2 young guys, 14, 15 years old, nothing else in the mind about the future, getting a club, doing it. No, it's just one of them things. We're going to call it Zoo. So this was 1978, 79. So fast forward back, now go to 84. We thought, what we're going to call ourselves? And then Steve said, remember that film? We hadn't spoken about it for 6 years or whatever it was. Let's call ourselves Zoo. So we called ourselves Zoo Soulbeat. We got an A4 bit of paper like this. We wrote the flyer. We cut it done it into 6 sections, right? And we just put Zoo Soulbeat, Bobby, B-O-B-B-I, and Steve, and then our friend Michael James, and the place, and we cut them up. We've done that. We photocopied them, got into the shop, photocopied them, cut them up, gave them out in our area before it was going. Because we was well known and we knew a lot of people, right? Because of our family, well known, because we was going around with people who grew up. It was our ends, it was our neighbourhood. And so we had 7 days to promote. We hired a Citronic DJ system, 2 Citronic turntables and a mixer. It was beautiful, all sparkling white covered leather, white Citronic boxes, because the place was lovely. So we thought, we've got to get a nice system. And that was it. Started playing our music and that. We played some soul. We was playing soul and some go-go was in and some cool hip-hop. And that was that. The place was packed, 250 people. Without any plan. That was the beginning of our career.
With ease. Everything went to plan. There was no pitfall, no like, oh my God, this is like...
No plan. The plan was, where's the A4 bit of paper and what are we going to call ourselves? But it was all stored, right, from back in the day. From Thank God It's Friday. It was stored there without us really knowing what was going. That's how you have to believe in what's meant to be, the universe, and you've got to believe in something, man. And that's where it came from. And 38 years later, we haven't stopped. Right, and I can sit here proud to say that because that was the beginning And again, we was both working still. The place was packed. It took off really, really good. And then Kiss FM was pirate then. There was illegal radio then, right? So Gordon Mack, in them days, it was about sound system in your area. Who was big in the area? It was us in that area, another sound called Funkadelic, Trevor Nelson, Trevor Nelson, who was a soul DJ. He was from Hackney, so he was big there. And, Jazzy B from North London. Every area had its little niche of who was doing it. It weren't a million DJs like it is now. So word got around because we had people, not just from Forest Gate, where we come from, coming down. People started coming down from West London, North, South, East. You know what I mean? They started coming down. It was the spot before you went to Bentley's. We created this spot now. So Gordon came down and said if you wanted to join Kiss FM. Hadn't done any radio. We said, yeah, 100%. So I think about 6 months after that, when we started, from that, I went on to radio, which was a great start of something else, because really, really took to the radio big time. No training, nothing. It was just a natural thing that I just loved. So that was really cool. And, we had a great career with Kiss FM, moved along with our thing, and then we became meeting up with Norman J, all the Kiss FM guys that was on there. Norman J and stuff. The Rear Groove was in then, so we was part of that movement. And the warehouse situation came in, because you wouldn't really go and get West End clubs, but you'd just get warehouses. I mean, back in the day then, in the mid-'80s, whatever loophole there was in the law, we would, like them days, you can go to an estate agent, right, to get a key for a house, to view a house. So we'd look for these houses that just got refurbished. We like places. It sounds like we always jump into places that got refurbished. It sounds like Simpsons. And then we'd find houses that was waiting to be sold or whatever. And then we get this girlfriend of ours that we knew. This girl was a friend of ours. She would go and ask for the key. They would give you the key, not go with you for a meeting then. So we'd cut the key. Our other friend, Dapo, would sort the electrics out. And we started doing house parties, illegal house parties. In the mid-80s, just after 85, 86, 85-ish, 86. So we were doing house parties in our area. And then we found this warehouse in Forest Gate as well. It was a big clothes shop that closed down. On the back of it, there was an alleyway. And we thought, there's a warehouse there. Broke into that. Sorted the electrics out. We had that warehouse. Steve made me laugh. Steve said, this is ours now. We had that warehouse running, right, with our zoo parties for about 9 months. We had Norman J come down from Carnival. Everyone was coming down playing for us. Yeah. And that was so we really built up a lot of stuff in East London like that. And then we started doing clubs. 1988 was our first West End club. We called it Klub Zoo. It was a beautiful club. And that, again, reminded us of the Thank God It's Friday film, because it was a really plush club. We've gone from these warehouse parties it's in Piccadilly Circus, right in the centre of London, right? Swallow Street, just off Regent Street it was. So we got this club, and they let us do it on a Wednesday night. And it was just disco and boogie, Leroy Burgess stuff and Sweet Thing. Conversion, that was the groove, and all underground boogie stuff that we used to play. And it was us, Paul Anderson, Colin Dell, Fabio from Fabio and Groove Rider. He was into all that. He was one of our residents down there, Henderson's, a few of us. And that was our first introduction to the West End clubs, our own parties, basically. Yeah, and that was 1988. But going back a bit, because we got friendly with Norman J, such a great guy. We owe so much to Norman, for musical education, and just the point of him going to New York in 1987 and playing at the seminar that was out there, right, the conference. And he said, I'm going to go and play here. If anyone wants to come, they can come with me. Pay our own way, but we all stay together, right? Move as a tribe, but we all stay together. I remember we stayed at a YMCA. Femi was there as well, Femi B. From the Young Disciples. There was a few of us there. And part of that week trip was going to the Paradise Garage. Now, hand on heart, this was 1987. Never heard of the Paradise Garage. Never heard of Larry Levan. If I did, it wasn't nothing we was on it, me and Steve, right? So we ended up going to this club, this club.
Let me show some pictures around that time when you were around. So here we are, 1987. They're in New York.
87, yeah.
Floating around.
TV. There's me, hands up in the air.
They're going to Vinyl Mania.
Yeah, man.
Spots.
Original pictures, man. Vinyl Mania Records.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
So you wind up going to the garage that summer. It would have been that summer, right before it closed.
Yeah, 3 months before it shut down. And we was just like blown away. Yeah, we went to other clubs in London, but it was like we hadn't experienced anything like this. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you know, the closer you get to that in London would have been Ministry, but that wasn't even born yet. You know what I mean? This is 87. So we had this experience and we just thought, wow. And the music, because we knew about disco and stuff, the music, and Ralphie Rizzo used to hold me, was playing all these, and it was like, oh my God. Anyway, at the end of that night, someone said, oh, everyone's going to the record shop. This must have been just in the morning because people used to go around to Vinyl Mania. So we followed the crowd. The pictures told the story. We ended up going to Vinyl Mania. I don't think that was the after the garage
day, right?
I think, yeah, that was another time. Even though we looked shattered there, but still, we went back and bought all these records. Man, it was just such an experience. And I found these pictures that you're showing there. I only found them in the last year, I believe. I thought, where's these pictures? Right. We've got many, many more. So that was our introduction into the Paradise Garage, 1987.
See the record bags everywhere? Look at them.
Yeah.
That's DJs. See, that's what I'm talking about. They bought out the store to bring back home.
Yeah, man.
I'll take that.
Yeah, we was in it, man. But again, all that's supposed to happen. And that's why I say, you know, we're so grateful for Norman J, for him being the listener. The link will go from far back when it, but Norman was our link to bring us there, and this is what happened. So we came back to London. It's 1987. Kiss again. We started doing other clubs and everything else. Slowly playing a bit of house in some of our parties, but the crowd wasn't ready for it. They wanted Bobby Steve to play boogie, wants to play soul, wants to play a disco, which is fine because that's where our heart has always been and still is. So then we got Kiss FM came on legal in 1990, and I gave up the gas board, gave up my job. Steve gave up his job, and we knew we could make a full-time career out of this, right? Because we've got the promotional skills already at hand, and you know, we built up a great following. So Kiss came on in 1990. We gave up our jobs. We started this new club. The same night our show came on the Friday night, we got hold of another club, bang in the centre of West End again, off Tottenham Court Road. It was downstairs. It's called Klub Zoo, underground club, wicked, about 200, 250 max. So we done that every single Friday. No house, just soul and boogie like what we was doing. And everyone, Dunmore, Simon Dunmore, everyone from the industry used to come down there, right? It was a big night. And then we started introducing house to our crowd down there. And honestly, at the beginning, they would just stop and look.
Yeah, because a boogie crowd doesn't want to hear house music.
Well, it wasn't. House was obviously building up in the UK. It's 1990. Obviously, people were playing house. But our crowd, who had been with us since we started 84, is like, you know, what's going on? It wasn't, you know, not everyone would stop, but it was one of them. And it's only, I'm going to tell you this, it's only pre-COVID. It must have been about 3.5 years ago. We was doing an interview, me and Steve said, we was telling this story, and Steve said, yeah, but Bob, don't you remember when you used to play the records at the house when we come back and people just look at you and think, what are you doing, Bob? Blah, blah. And then Steve said, but you continued, didn't you? You continued playing it, and look where it is now. And even saying that now, it makes me get a bit emotional about it because it's true. Without even thinking, I wasn't thinking, no, fuck you, like, I'm going to keep doing it. It was just something we kept on doing. Not slamming in their face, but slowly, and it just worked. So that was Klub Zoo, which was a really great, that ran for a couple of years. So this is 1990. So 1991 now, Kiss FM, JM from Kiss FM and Gordon Mack, they wanted to start a clubs department, right? Because Kiss was big, controlling things in London, and everyone was doing parties, and Kiss didn't have no parties. So they wanted to do a night. They wanted to do a promotion, start up a promotions team. So they approached me and Steve said, Timmy, let's do a house night. I said, what? After the backlog we've been getting, he goes, let's just do our first house night. And Steve said, let's call it Garage City, just like that. Bang, bang, bang. Steve's the ideas, man. Bang, bang, bang. No stopping him. When he's on the road, he's on the road.
He's selling. He's constantly selling the idea.
All the time. For those who don't know,
before you get into this, I got to ask a few questions that are very important. You mentioned about Kiss FM and Gordon Mack and taking you from the club. Where did you guys get the idea for the styling of the show to create this Bobby and Steve show? Was it just something that you just said, we're going to just try this? Or was there DJs that you heard on the radio over the years that, you know, like Frankie Crocker for me was a big inspiration in New York, for example?
So again, I think it's so I'm constantly just picking up things throughout the year. I've always been, every time I used to hear a good DJ on the radio, before we got into DJing, I would be like, okay, so maybe I'm picking up things in my head or whatever. And I've always been into good presentation, you know, good radio presentation and good links, you know, when you're talking over the record and the next thing, bang, the next record's come. I'm not talking about mixing, I'm talking about playing records now, right? Mm-hmm. Just talking and putting together a show. So I'm glad you asked that because it is important, right? And I shouldn't just wash over the Kiss FM.
Because that's very important to legacy.
One of the main thing why I know that our show was so successful, besides the music and besides the atmosphere, was the energy and the love. We wasn't pretending to create this energy. You know, we're not going to go, you know, that was that, and that was that, and you know, yeah, record, yeah. We're full of life. God has given us, the universe has given us life. Live your life, man. Just like, so we was always proud of what we've done and what we're doing. And even if we didn't know how to do something, we wouldn't just pretend. We would just be confident enough to say, oh, this is what we're going to do. Same as the promotion back when we started, and we didn't know how to promote, but let's give it a go, right? There was no book. There's no book to really do. There's books now you can publish to how to do this, how to do that. Everything just came natural.
Right.
I would put in so much time, and Steve would join me as well, into producing the show ourselves, because it was important for me to know what I'm going to say for the first opening and the first couple of records, just to get them links. And I had a way of just writing, touch some little things down and put link. So when I'm trying to hit the next button, I had my own method, and it just worked. Do you know what I mean? And the energy. Okay, so even last weekend, I think our biggest fan base must have been the taxi drivers in London, right? Because even up to this day, last week, me and my wife stayed in a hotel last Saturday, we got in a taxi from London to come home. And the guy goes, well, you been out clubbing? I said, no, just having a rest. We don't go clubbing. You look like you're a clubber. Then I said, no, I'm just sort of, yes and no. He goes, then we started talking. He goes, I said, I do DJ a little bit. I don't like to say, yeah, Bob, forget all that. It's not important. So I said, yeah, I DJ a little bit. I said, yeah, where'd you DJ? Just do parties there and there. What's your name? Bobby. Oh, okay. You're not Bobby from Bobby and Steve, right? I said, yeah. Oh, my God, listen, not talking about the clubs now. I used to listen to you on Kiss FM.
That's right.
Like I said, we have a whole new market of people who don't go clubbing.
Let me give some kudos. Everyone around the world, pay attention closely. So, guys like myself or Louis Vega or any of us were making the records, and we wanted to make sure, of course, Trouble had it, but the other parts were Bobby and Steve. So we would get acetates or that tape to them, and if they loved it, they would start championing it on the show. And if they started talking about it, it opened the ears and eyes of everyone else. So they were game changers. Not only just being radio personality DJs, but they also broke records when records were still in a very early underground stage. That's important.
Yeah.
Don't ever forget that, people. These guys, what they've done, you know, strength to strength, that they believed in you, they championed it, and they yelled about it on the microphone. Hold on, let me tell you who it is. Boom, they go right back in. And that
was the thing as well. And that was the thing as well. And yeah, did we have all, and Paul Anderson, rest in peace, our brother. Us and Paul, I mean,
big time.
The record labels were waiting there with stacks of acetates and exclusives for us. And why not? Because business is business, right? And the thing about it is with our show, we would give you all the information. We would tell you, we would give you this. Where's this coming? What's it? Yeah, so it was a very educational show on that side of it, you know. And of course, the music. We've always, like I said, like yourself, Lenny, right? We come from a soulful disco vibe, and I always say this: soul music will never, ever, ever go away. All these other genres, which I love, I don't hate anything. I don't hate anything in this world, music or anything. I've got time for hate. Music is about your soul. It's about getting in there. Music heals. It's so powerful. And with real music, our soulful music, chords, you know, Philadelphia, Salsoul, strings and horns and everything else. That's really where it's always been for me and Steve. We love the underground, yeah, a bit, you know, strip it down a bit more, a bit raw. But our true heart.
Please search for part 2 of this podcast on the platform you're watching or listening to. And please do not forget to follow us.